The trade. The sky above planet Varel was always orange. 2 suns burned in the sky, and the wind carried red dust across the dry land. A young alien girl stood near a broken wall. Her name was Lyra. Her hands were tied with glowing chains. Her eyes, big and green, were filled with fear. In front of her stood her parents, cold and silent. They looked at her like she was just a thing. A large black ship landed nearby, its engines loud and scary. The ship door opened with a hiss. A tall human man stepped out. He was dressed in armor. A metal badge on his chest read Daniel, Earth Soldier, Division 9. Daniel walked slowly, his eyes scanning the scene. He saw Lyra, saw the chains, and paused. His face was calm, but something in his eyes showed he didn't like what he saw. Lyra tried to step back, but the chains stopped her. Her mother looked at Daniel. "She is ready. Do you have the credits?" Daniel nodded once. He pressed a button on his wrist device. A beep sounded. The father pulled out a small scanner. Confirmed. 10,000 credits transferred. "Good," Daniel said. He looked at Lyra. "Untie her." "No," the mother replied. "She is yours now. Do what you want." Daniel walked forward and gently touched the chains. They powered down. Lyra rubbed her wrists, but didn't move. Her father spoke sharply. "Go. He's your husband now." Lyra's lips trembled. "Why? Why are you doing this?" Her mother looked away. "We need money." "You're not special, Lyra." Daniel watched the exchange in silence. Then he gently said, "You don't have to speak, but you are safe with me." Lyra looked up at him. His voice was soft, not like the others, but she didn't trust him. He was human. Humans were dangerous. Daniel turned and started walking toward his ship. After a moment, Lyra followed. As they stepped inside the ship, the door closed behind them. The inside was clean and warm. Lights glowed gently. A soft hum filled the air. Daniel showed her to a small room. "This is your space," he said. "No locks. You can rest, eat, sleep, be yourself." Lyra didn't speak. She sat on the bed and hugged her knees. Daniel left quietly. That night, Lyra sat in silence. She touched the soft blanket on the bed. She had never felt anything like it. In her old home, the floor was her bed. She didn't cry. Not yet. Instead, she whispered, "I am nothing to them." Then her mind thought of Daniel. Why didn't he hurt her? Why did he look at her like she was human? She didn't understand. In the ship's control room, Daniel stared at a small photo in his hand. It showed a girl who looked just like Lyra. The girl in the photo had bright eyes, a warm smile, and dark hair. Daniel whispered, "I don't know if you're her, but I'll protect you." He pressed a button on the console. A voice answered. "Commander, report." "I have her," Daniel said. "She looks just like my sister." There was silence. The voice returned. "Are you sure?" Daniel closed his eyes. "She's not just a bride. She's the key to everything." Back in her room, Lyra lay on the bed, eyes wide open. She didn't trust anyone. Not yet. But for the first time in her life, someone had given her a room. A blanket. A kind voice. Maybe, just maybe, not all humans were monsters. The journey begins. Lyra had never flown on a ship before. She sat in the corner of the room Daniel gave her. The walls were smooth and gray, the light soft and steady. Everything smelled clean and strange. There were no windows, only a screen on the wall that showed stars flying past. The ship was moving fast, too fast for her to understand. Her world, her parents, her home, all were gone now. She hugged her knees to her chest, still wearing the rough clothes from her village. Her wrists had red marks where the glowing chains used to be. The door opened with a soft hiss. Daniel stepped in, holding a tray with food. Steam rose from a bowl. It smelled warm, maybe even good. "I brought something to eat," he said quietly. Lyra didn't move. Her eyes watched him like a wild animal ready to run. "I won't hurt you," Daniel said, placing the tray on a small table. "You can eat if you're hungry. If not, I'll take it back later." He didn't wait for a reply. He turned to leave. But before he reached the door, Lyra finally spoke. "What do you want from me?" Her voice was soft, almost a whisper, but her words were sharp. Daniel stopped. He turned around slowly. "Nothing," he said. She blinked. "Then why did you buy me?" Daniel looked at her carefully, as if choosing his words. "I didn't buy you," he said. "I saved you." Lyra frowned. No one saves people with money. Daniel sighed. He stepped back into the room, but kept his distance. "You don't know me," he said, "and I don't expect you to trust me. But your parents were ready to trade you to someone much worse." "Worse?" Lyra repeated. "Yes," Daniel said. "I'm a soldier, not a traitor. I've seen what happens to girls like you in the outer colonies." She looked down, silent. Daniel continued, his voice low. "I had a sister once. She was taken. Sold. I never found her." Lyra looked up slowly. "So you think I'm her?" Daniel shook his head. "I don't know. Maybe. Maybe not. But you looked scared. And alone. I couldn't leave you." Silence filled the room again. After a while, Lyra stood up slowly and walked to the table. She picked up the bowl and smelled it. Then she ate, carefully at first, then faster. Daniel smiled a little and quietly left the room. The next few days were strange for Lyra. Daniel didn't try to touch her. He didn't ask her to cook or clean. He gave her space. He taught her how to use the ship's doors, how to open her own screen, how to call for help. She listened but didn't talk much. Every day, Daniel brought her meals. And every day, he said the same words. "You're safe here." One night, the ship shook suddenly. Lights blinked. A loud siren echoed through the walls. Lyra ran out of her room, heart pounding. Daniel was already in the cockpit, hands moving fast on the controls. "What's happening?" she asked, her voice shaking. "We're passing through a storm field," he said. "Stay close, but sit down." She grabbed the seat next to him and sat. The ship rocked again. Outside the window, she saw flashes of red and green. Space storms. Dangerous. Beautiful. Daniel smiled slightly. "Don't worry. This ship is tough." She looked at him. "How do you stay so calm?" He gave a short laugh. "You learn to breathe slow when everyone else is panicking." The storm passed after a while, and the ship flew smoothly again. Lyra let out a long breath. She realized something strange. For the first time in her life, she felt safe, even during a storm. Later that night, Lyra walked into the control room. Daniel was sitting, looking at a photo. She stopped in the doorway. "Is that her? Your sister?" Daniel turned the photo toward her. A girl smiled in the picture, with dark eyes and hair tied in a braid. "She disappeared when she was 10, Daniel said. "No one cared. No police. No news. Just gone." Lyra walked slowly to him. "She looks like me." "Yes," he said quietly. "Do you think I'm her?" "I don't know," Daniel said. "But I do know this. You didn't deserve what your family did." Lyra looked down. "They never loved me. Not really. I was just something to sell." Daniel's voice was steady. "Well, I'm not going to treat you like that. You're not property. You're a person." She looked up at him. His eyes were kind. Tired, but kind. "Why are you helping me?" she asked again. Daniel paused. "Because someone should have helped my sister, and I wasn't there." The next morning, Lyra woke up early. She walked to the control room and sat next to Daniel without saying anything. He handed her a hot drink. She smiled, just a little. Daniel said, "We're headed to a neutral zone. You can stay there if you want. Start a new life." Lyra looked out the window at the stars. Do you really want to leave me there? Daniel was quiet. Only if that's what you want. Lyra thought for a long time. Then she said, I want to see where this ship goes. Daniel smiled. Then welcome aboard. But far away, in the dark corners of the galaxy, something else was happening. On a pirate space station, a bounty hunter opened a message. Target: Lyra, half-human hybrid, wanted alive. Reward: 100,000 credits. The hunter smiled darkly. The hunt had begun. Secrets from the past. The stars outside the ship sparkled like cold fire. Lyra sat by the window screen, holding the photo she had taken from Daniel's desk. The girl in the picture had a soft smile and curious eyes. Her name was written on the back. Emily. Age 10. Emily looked so much like her. Same eyes, same nose, same hairline. It was like staring into a mirror, but of a past she didn't remember. Lyra's fingers trembled. Could it be true? Was she really Daniel's lost sister, or was she something else? Daniel walked into the room, a mug in his hand. He paused when he saw her with the photo. I'm sorry, Lyra said quickly. I shouldn't have touched it. Daniel sat beside her. It's okay, he said. You deserve to know. He took the photo gently and looked at it. She disappeared 14 years ago, Daniel said. 1 minute she was playing in the backyard. The next, she was gone. No message? Lyra asked. Nothing, he said. We searched everywhere. Police gave up. But I didn't. I joined the military, not just to serve Earth, but to search the stars. Lyra's voice was soft. You think I'm her? Daniel didn't answer right away. I want to believe, he said. But you're older now. Maybe you're her, maybe a clone, or a hybrid, or something else. Lyra's brow furrowed. What is a hybrid? Daniel looked at her, serious now. A person, created from human and alien DNA. Mixed. Built. Lyra pulled her hands back, as if the word itself was dangerous. Built? You mean, like a machine? No, Daniel said gently. You're real. You breathe. You feel. But you're kind. Hybrids are very rare, and very illegal in most parts of the galaxy. Illegal? Lyra asked. Daniel nodded. There are people who believe hybrids are tools, not people. They sell them, use them, erase their minds. Lyra looked down at her hands. What if that's me? Daniel placed a hand over hers. Then we'll find the truth, together. Later that day, Daniel ran tests in the ship's lab. He took a small sample of Lyra's hair, placing it into a scanner. Lyra stood nearby, heart beating fast. The screen blinked. DNA match detected. 86% match to subject, Emily Reeves. Lyra gasped. Emily. So I am your sister. Daniel shook his head slowly. Not exactly. He pulled up the results. You share her DNA, mostly. But there's something added. Alien code. Modified strands. You weren't born naturally. Lyra turned pale. Then what am I? Daniel looked into her eyes. You're a clone, Lyra, a copy, but someone changed parts of you. Lyra backed away, hands covering her mouth. I'm not real. Daniel stood up. That's not true. You are real. You think. You feel. You have a heart. Lyra's voice cracked. But I don't have a past. I was made, not born. Daniel gently touched her shoulder. Maybe you were made. But your choices, your heart, those are yours. That makes you alive. That night, Lyra sat alone in the sleeping chamber. Her mind was spinning. All her life, she had wondered why she felt different, why she never fit in, why her parents never really cared. Now she knew. She wasn't their daughter. She was a thing created from someone else's DNA, sold like property. Tears slid down her cheeks. But then she remembered something else. Daniel. He didn't call her a thing. He didn't look at her like she was broken. He called her real. Meanwhile, far away, the bounty signal spread across the stars like fire. On a dark space station, bounty hunters, mercenaries, and black market traders stared at a glowing message on their devices. Target: female hybrid, human/alien DNA. Age: unknown. Reward: 100,000 credits. Alive only. In a smoky room, a tall alien with 6 red eyes grinned. "She must be special," he hissed. Another replied, "With that reward, she's either royal or a weapon." A third one cracked his knuckles. "Doesn't matter. We'll find her. We always do." Back on the ship, Lyra stood in the training room. Daniel had shown her how to defend herself, how to hold a stun blade, how to move quietly. "Again," he said, holding a padded shield. Lyra swung the blade, her form shaky but fast. Daniel blocked. "Better. Now your foot." She stepped forward, kicked, and almost knocked him back. He laughed. "That's the spirit." She smiled. "Maybe I'm part soldier, too." "Maybe you're better," he said. "You're fast, stronger than most humans." Lyra nodded slowly. "I want to be ready." "For what?" She looked at him with fire in her eyes. "For whoever comes for me next." After training, Lyra sat at the control screen. "Daniel," she asked, "why do you still care? Even after finding out I'm not your real sister?" Daniel leaned back in his seat. "Because I lost someone," he said. "And maybe I can't get her back. But I can make sure no one else gets taken." He looked at her firmly. "You may not be Emily, but you're someone now. Someone worth fighting for." Lyra whispered, "Thank you." Daniel smiled. "Get some rest. We jump to the neutral zone tomorrow." But as the ship flew quietly through space, a small red dot blinked on Daniel's scanner. "Tracking beacon detected." Daniel stared at the screen. "They found us," he said under his breath. And somewhere, in the cold black of space, ships were already on their way. Hunters in the dark. The ship floated quietly in deep space, like a lone bird flying through a storm it hadn't seen yet. Inside, everything looked peaceful. But Daniel was not at peace. He stared at the blinking red light on the control screen. Tracking beacon detected. Distance: 400,000 kilometers. Approaching fast. His heart sank. Someone had found them. Lyra walked into the cockpit, still breathing hard from training. "Daniel, I think I can finally land a full strike." She stopped when she saw his face. "What is it?" she asked, her voice suddenly sharp. Daniel turned the screen toward her. "We've got company." "Who?" Daniel didn't answer. He zoomed in on the signal. A ship. Fast, silent, no ID tag. The kind of ship that never followed the law. Lyra stepped closer. "Bounty hunters." Daniel nodded. "Most likely. Someone placed a tracker on our hull. Could have been from the last spaceport." Her eyes widened. "They're coming for me." Daniel stood up. "Not if I can help it." He opened a secret panel behind the cockpit. Inside were weapons, armor, and gear. Daniel handed Lyra a small silver disc. "This is a personal shield. Press the button once. It'll cover you for 30 seconds. Only once. Use it wisely." Lyra held the disc tightly. "What about you?" Daniel smirked. "I got about 5 of those." They shared a brief smile, but it faded fast. The ship shook gently. "They're here," Daniel said. Outside the ship, a long black vessel appeared from the shadows of a nearby asteroid. It had no lights, no sound, just the soft hum of engines. Inside it, the bounty hunter known as Krivik grinned, his 6 red eyes glowing. "She's on that ship," he hissed to his crew. "Alive. No mistakes." He pressed a button. A small boarding pod detached from his ship and rocketed toward Daniel's vessel like a silent bullet. Inside the ship, alarms rang. "Boarding pod incoming," Daniel shouted. He grabbed his blaster, tossed another to Lyra, and locked the control room. Stay close. Shoot only if you must. They want you alive. Don't give them that. Lyra nodded, fear rising in her chest. The pod crashed into the side of the ship with a loud metallic thud. The walls shook. Then came silence. Footsteps. Daniel aimed his blaster. They're inside. The first hunter kicked open a side door. He was tall, with gray skin and metal arms. His eyes locked on Lyra instantly. There you are, little prize. He raised a stun gun. Lyra froze. Before he could fire, Daniel shot him in the leg. The hunter screamed and fell. Go, Daniel yelled. Lyra ran through the hallway. Lights flashed red. Smoke began to fill the air. Another hunter dropped down from the ceiling, grabbing her by the arm. She screamed and kicked hard. He laughed. You've got spirit, he growled. Suddenly, the silver disc in Lyra's hand beeped. Her shield activated, and the hunter's hand burned against the energy field. Ah! He screamed and let go. Lyra spun around, picked up the blaster, and shot him in the shoulder. He fell back, groaning. She didn't wait, she ran. Daniel fought two more in the control room. He moved fast, calm, trained like a true soldier. One by one, he shot, blocked, and slammed them down. But then, Krivak entered. Unlike the others, he didn't attack right away. He stood tall, smiling. You must be the human who stole my prize, he said. Daniel aimed his weapon. She's not a prize. She's a person. Krivak tilted his head. You don't know what she is, do you? I know enough. Krivak grinned wider. Then you know she's worth more than 100,000 credits. She's not just any hybrid. She's the first. Daniel frowned. What do you mean? Krivak stepped closer. She was grown in the labs of Sector 9. A mix of human DNA and royal alien blood. She was designed to rule. Daniel's eyes narrowed. You're lying. Am I? Krivak said softly. Why do you think her own family traded her away? They knew what she was. They couldn't control her. But I can. Daniel fired, but Krivak moved like lightning. The blast missed, and Krivak kicked Daniel hard, sending him crashing into the wall. Lyra heard the noise from the corridor. She turned back. Daniel. Smoke filled the air. Fear burned in her chest, but she ran anyway. When she reached the control room, she saw Daniel on the floor. Unconscious. Krivak stood over him, raising the glowing chain. Time to come home, little queen, he said. Lyra didn't think. She ran straight at him. Krivak turned, just in time for Lyra to punch him in the face. Hard. The hit stunned him. She grabbed the blaster and fired. Boom. The wall behind Krivak exploded. He flew backward, smashing into a control panel. Electric sparks flew. Alarms screamed. She rushed to Daniel. Wake up, please. His eyes fluttered open. You came back. I'm not leaving you, she whispered. He smiled weakly. Good, because I need your help. Together, they activated the emergency pulse drive, a special burst that could throw off enemy systems for 30 seconds. Daniel pressed the trigger. A white shockwave spread from the ship, frying every tracking device and knocking Krivak's ship offline. Lyra helped Daniel to the pilot's seat. Hold on, he whispered. The ship jumped into hyperspeed, vanishing into the stars. Silence. The ship flew safely through space again. Daniel sat with bandages on his head. Lyra sat beside him, shaking. You saved me, Daniel said. She looked at him. You saved me first. They both smiled. But inside Lyra's heart, something was changing. She had fought back. She had chosen her path. She wasn't just a clone, or a copy, or a trade. She was someone. And now, she wanted to know who she really was, the hidden power within. The ship glided silently through the void, its engines running smoother now after the fight. Daniel leaned back in his chair, eyes half closed, while Lyra sat across from him at the control panel. She stared out at the stars, but her thoughts were far from the peaceful view. Her hands still trembled. Not from fear, though. Something else had happened during the battle with Krivik and his hunters. When she fought back, she'd felt something, deep inside. A warmth, a glow. It wasn't the small personal shield Daniel had given her. This was something else, something coming from within. As the hours passed, Lyra began to notice small changes. Her senses felt sharper. She could hear the faint hum of the ship's core more clearly than before. The lights seemed brighter, almost too bright. And when she touched the cold metal of the control panel, she felt a strange energy beneath her fingertips. "Are you okay?" Daniel asked, watching her closely. Lyra nodded quickly, too quickly. "Yes, I'm fine." But she wasn't fine. Something was happening to her, and she didn't know what it meant. Later, while Daniel was resting in his quarters, Lyra wandered the ship. She passed the training room, the storage bays, and the small med lab. She wasn't sure where she was going. She just needed to move, to think. As she walked, her hand brushed against the walls. The hum of the ship grew louder in her ears. She stopped, placing both palms flat on the cool metal. Her heartbeat quickened. The lights around her flickered. "Stop it," she whispered to herself. "Stop imagining things." But then the lights flickered again. And this time, the floor beneath her feet vibrated. Lyra pulled her hands away. The flickering stopped. The vibrations faded. Her breathing was shallow, fast. "What's happening to me?" When Daniel found her later, she was sitting on the floor of the common area, knees drawn up to her chest. She didn't look at him as he approached. "What's going on?" he asked. Lyra shook her head. "I don't know. Something feels wrong, or different." "Different how?" Daniel crouched beside her, his voice calm, steady. "I can feel things," she said quietly. "Not just like touching. I feel the ship, the walls. When I touch them, it's like I'm connected." Daniel frowned. "That doesn't sound wrong to me." Lyra looked at him. "It doesn't?" "No," he said. "I told you before, you're unique. Maybe this is part of it." Lyra sighed. "But what if it's dangerous? What if I hurt someone?" Daniel placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then we'll figure it out. Together." As the days passed, Lyra began to experiment in secret. She waited until Daniel was asleep or busy in the cockpit. Then she would place her hands on the walls again, or hold small tools from the med lab. Every time, the sensation was the same, a subtle warmth, a faint hum of energy flowing into her. One night, she stood in the training room, gripping a practice blade. She closed her eyes and focused on the strange feeling inside. The warmth grew, spreading from her chest to her arms, her hands. When she opened her eyes, the blade was glowing faintly, just for a moment. Then the glow faded. Lyra's heart raced. "I did that." But the next second, the ship's alarm blared. Daniel ran into the training room, weapon drawn. "What happened?" "I don't know," Lyra stammered. "I was just—" The alarm cut off abruptly. The lights returned to normal. Daniel lowered his weapon, staring at her. "What were you doing?" he asked, his voice firm, but not angry. Lyra hesitated, then held out the practice blade. "I think I made it glow." Daniel's eyes narrowed. He took the blade, examined it, then looked at her. "What do you mean?" "I don't know how to explain it," she said. "I felt something. It was like energy. I focused on it, and the blade lit up." Daniel sat down on one of the benches. He ran a hand through his hair. "This is new." Lyra swallowed hard. "Is it bad?" Daniel shook his head. "Not bad. But it's something we need to understand." Over the next few days, Daniel and Lyra worked together to explore her abilities. He set up a small testing area in the training room. Lyra would hold different objects, tools, weapons, even pieces of scrap metal, while Daniel watched and took notes. At first, the results were small. A faint glow, a gentle vibration. But then, one night, something extraordinary happened. Lyra was holding a metal rod, focusing on the warmth she felt inside. The rod began to glow brighter than ever before. Suddenly, the glow spread from the rod to her hands, up her arms. Her whole body shimmered with light. Daniel stepped back. "Lyra, what are you doing?" "I don't know," she cried. "I can't stop it." The light grew brighter, filling the room. Then, with a sharp crack, the rod snapped in two and the light vanished. Lyra collapsed to her knees, gasping for breath. Daniel rushed to her side. "Are you okay?" She nodded weakly. "I didn't mean to. It just happened." After that, they both knew her abilities were more than just a curiosity. They were powerful and potentially dangerous. Daniel contacted a trusted friend, a scientist from his old division. He sent a coded message describing what they had discovered. A reply came quickly. "Bring her to me. We need to run tests. I'll keep her safe." Lyra read the message over Daniel's shoulder. "Do you trust him?" she asked. Daniel hesitated. "I trust him more than most. But if you don't feel safe, we won't go." Lyra looked down at her hands. She could still feel the warmth, the energy waiting to be unleashed. "I think we need answers," she said finally. "I need to know what I am." Daniel nodded. "Then we'll go. Together." As the ship changed course, heading toward the scientist's hidden lab, Lyra sat by the window again, watching the stars. She still didn't understand what was happening to her. But one thing was clear. She was no ordinary hybrid. There was something inside her, something powerful, something that could change everything. The trial of truth. The laboratory was hidden on a cold, rocky moon. From orbit, it looked like nothing more than a barren wasteland. But as Daniel's ship approached the surface, a circular door opened in the side of a cliff, revealing a tunnel that led deep into the moon's core. Lyra stood behind Daniel in the cockpit, her arms crossed tightly. "Are you sure this is the right place?" she asked. "This is it," Daniel said, his eyes fixed on the glowing map in front of him. "My contact is waiting for us inside." Lyra nodded, but she didn't feel ready. The closer they got, the heavier her chest felt. She wasn't just nervous, she was scared. She had fought bounty hunters, escaped death, and discovered strange powers. But now she was about to face the truth about herself. Inside the lab, the air was sterile and cold. The walls were bright white, lined with monitors, strange machines, and tall glass tanks filled with glowing blue liquid. A thin man with sharp features and silver-gray hair approached them. He wore a long coat, his hands hidden in the pockets. His eyes were quick, scanning Lyra from head to toe before turning to Daniel. "You weren't exaggerating," the man said. "She really is unique." "This is Dr. Elias," Daniel said to Lyra. "He's an old friend." Lyra gave a small nod. "Hello." Elias offered a polite smile. "Welcome, Lyra. I know this must feel strange, but I'm here to help. If you'll follow me, we can start some simple tests." The first test was a DNA scan. Lyra sat in a quiet room while Elias stood at a console, running her blood sample through a machine. She felt the cold metal of the chair under her fingers, the weight of Daniel's presence just outside the glass wall. After a few minutes, Elias frowned at the screen. He leaned closer, adjusting the controls. His expression hardened. "What is it?" Daniel asked from the doorway. Elias glanced at him, then back at the data. "This is remarkable. Her genetic structure isn't just altered, it's rewritten. I've never seen anything like it. It's not natural, not even close." Lyra swallowed. "What does that mean?" Elias turned to her. "It means you weren't just a random experiment. You were created with precision. You're a hybrid, yes, but one that's been enhanced in ways I can't fully understand. Someone spent a lot of time and resources making you exactly as you are." Lyra's hands clenched. "But why?" Elias sighed. "That's the question, isn't it?" The next test was a neurological scan. Lyra lay on a padded table while a machine hovered above her, scanning her brain activity. Lights flashed. The machine hummed. Lyra tried to stay calm, but every flash of light made her stomach twist. When the scan was done, Elias reviewed the results. "This is even more unusual," he muttered. "Her brain shows patterns of activity I've only seen in highly advanced AI systems. It's as if her thoughts move faster, more efficiently, like a living computer." Lyra sat up, her heart racing. "So, I'm part machine." Elias shook his head. "No, not at all. You're fully organic. But your mind, your consciousness, is somehow enhanced, capable of processing information at a level beyond normal human or alien brains." Daniel stepped closer, his voice calm but firm. "Is this something that could make her dangerous?" Elias hesitated. "Potentially, yes. If she's pushed too far, or if she accesses certain abilities, she could cause a lot of damage." As the tests continued, Elias uncovered more pieces of the puzzle. Lyra's body healed faster than normal. Her strength and reflexes were far beyond those of a typical human or alien. And then there were the strange energy readings, the glow she had experienced before. Elias measured it carefully and found that her body could generate an unknown form of power, something not yet seen in any known species. By the end of the day, Lyra felt more confused than ever. She sat in a small lounge, staring at her hands. They looked the same as always, but now she knew they weren't just hers. They were designed, engineered. Daniel sat beside her. "You've been quiet." Lyra shook her head. "What am I supposed to say? I came here hoping for answers, but all I've learned is that I'm not real." Daniel frowned. "That's not true. You're real, Lyra. You're just different." "Different doesn't feel real," she said softly. Daniel placed a hand on her shoulder. "Listen, you're more than your DNA, more than whatever power you have. You've made choices. You've fought for your life. That's what makes you real." Lyra looked at him, her eyes wet. "What if I can't control it? What if I hurt someone?" "Then you'll learn to control it," Daniel said. "You're stronger than you think." Later that night, Elias called them back to the lab. "I think I've found something," he said, his voice grave. On the screen, he showed a series of records, old files hidden deep in galactic archives. These documents mention a project called Project Genesis. It was a secret program funded by a powerful faction in the Galactic Council. They were trying to create the perfect leader, someone who could unite humans and aliens, a hybrid with the best traits of both. Lyra stared at the screen. "So I'm part of that project?" Elias nodded. "I believe so. But there's something else. The project was shut down because it was too dangerous. The hybrids they created, they were too powerful, too unpredictable. Most of them were destroyed." "Most?" Daniel asked. Elias looked at Lyra. "You might be the last one. And if that's true, there are people out there who would do anything to control you." Lyra's voice trembled. "Or kill me." Elias didn't answer. His silence said everything. As the ship prepared to leave the moon, Lyra stood at the observation deck, looking out at the distant stars. She felt the warmth again, the energy inside her that had once frightened her. But now it felt different, like a part of her she couldn't ignore. Daniel approached, standing silently beside her. "What do we do now?" she asked. Daniel's eyes were steady. "We keep moving, keep you safe, and we figure out how to use that power of yours." Lyra took a deep breath, her fists tightening. "I don't want to hurt anyone." "You won't," Daniel said. "Not if we're careful." Lyra turned to him, her green eyes bright. "I want to control it. I want to understand it. Daniel smiled. Then let's start now. More than human. The ship hovered in orbit around a barren, rocky world. From above, it looked empty. Nothing but cracks, dust, and jagged cliffs. But deep below the surface, hidden in a massive cavern, was the heart of Project Genesis. Lyra stood at the edge of the control room, her hands clenched into fists. Her mind was a whirlwind of emotions. Anger, confusion, fear. She had spent weeks running from hunters, discovering abilities she didn't understand, and searching for answers. Now she was here, in the place where it all began. Daniel stood beside her, his blaster strapped to his side. He wasn't smiling. He hadn't smiled since they entered the cavern. "This is it," he said quietly. "The truth you've been looking for." The cavern stretched out before them, a massive underground facility built of polished black stone. Blue lights flickered along the walls, casting shadows that seemed to move on their own. In the center of the room was a tall glass cylinder filled with a thick green liquid. Inside floated a figure, a young woman who looked just like Lyra. Lyra stared at the cylinder, her heart pounding. "What is that?" Dr. Elias, who had followed them down, stepped forward. His voice was calm, but it carried a weight that made the air feel heavy. "That is the original, the first prototype, the one from which all other hybrids were made." Lyra's chest tightened. "She looks like me." "She is you," Elias said. "Or rather, you are a copy of her, a more advanced version, created after the original was placed in stasis." Daniel put a hand on her shoulder, steadying her. "Lyra, it doesn't matter what she is. You're here now. You're the one who fought back. You're the one who survived." Lyra's voice was barely a whisper. "I'm not real." Elias stepped closer, his tone firm. "You are as real as I am. As real as Daniel. Being created doesn't make you less human. What you choose, what you do, that is what makes you real." Before Lyra could respond, the sound of heavy footsteps echoed through the cavern. The group turned to see a squad of armed figures entering the room. At the front of the group was Krivek, his 6 red eyes glowing in the dim light. "Well," Krivek hissed, "this is a surprise." The last hybrid, standing in the place where it all began. Daniel drew his blaster. "You're not taking her." Krivek laughed, a harsh, grating sound. "You can't stop this, human. She belongs to us." Lyra stepped forward, her voice shaking but strong. "I don't belong to anyone." Krivek's grin widened. "Ah, the fire of youth. But you'll learn. You're not human. You're not alien. You're just a tool." "No," Lyra said, her voice rising. "I'm more than that." The tension in the room snapped like a wire pulled too tight. Krivek raised his weapon, and Daniel fired first. The shot hit one of Krivek's guards, and the cavern erupted into chaos. Blaster fire lit up the darkness. Lyra dove behind a console, her heart racing. "Lyra," Daniel shouted, "get out of here." But Lyra didn't run. Something inside her refused to leave. She wasn't just a scared girl anymore. She wasn't a clone or a copy. She was Lyra, and she had a choice. She placed her hands on the console. The warmth she had felt before, the strange energy deep inside, began to grow. Her fingers glowed faintly, and the console lights flickered. Power surged through her, and she felt the ship's systems as if they were an extension of her own body. "Lyra, what are you doing?" Daniel called out. She didn't answer. She closed her eyes, focusing on the warmth, on the glow. "Help me," the figure whispered. Lyra's heart ached. This was the one who came before her, the one who was left behind, forgotten. She closed her eyes, letting the energy flow freely. The glass cracked, and the green liquid spilled out. The original fell forward, coughing, but alive. Krivek screamed in fury, "You've ruined everything." "No," Lyra said, turning to him. "You did that the moment you thought we were less than human." The remaining guards dropped their weapons. Daniel stepped forward, his blaster still in hand, but no longer aimed. What now? Lyra looked at the original, who was weak but standing. We leave, she said. All of us. Elias stepped forward, his expression grim. And what will you do now, Lyra? The galaxy will hunt you. People will fear you. Lyra met his gaze, her glowing hands fading back to normal. Then I'll show them they're wrong. I'll show them what it means to be human. Daniel smiled, pride in his eyes. You've come a long way, Lyra. She nodded. Thanks to you. As the group prepared to leave, Krivak sat slumped against a wall, his once confident grin replaced by a bitter scowl. You think you've won, he muttered, but you'll never belong. Lyra turned to him, her voice calm. I don't need to belong. I just need to live. She stepped onto the ship with Daniel and the others, leaving the cavern and Krivak behind. In the quiet of the ship, Lyra sat by the window, watching the stars. She no longer felt like a shadow of someone else. She no longer felt lost. She was more than human, more than a hybrid, more than a tool. She was Lyra, and her journey was just beginning.